When I moved into this new neighborhood, I expected peace and quiet, not a full-blown war with an HOA that thought they owned me. From the moment I rolled in with my Porsche, Karen, the so-called vice president, decided she hated me. She slapped me with fines, threatened me, and told me I didn't belong here. But things got out of control fast. It started with threats, then vandalism, and eventually they even sent fake HOA cops to steal my car. What they didn't know was that I'm a US Marshal and I don't take kindly to threats. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. I had just moved into Oakfield Estates, a neighborhood that looked like the picture of suburban calm. Manicured lawns, neat mailboxes, kids on bikes, it all looked perfect. But perfect is often a mask, and I learned that the hard way. The first person I met was Sandra Holt, the HOA vice president. She introduced herself with a smile so fake it should have come with a warning label. "We have standards here," she said, eyeing me like I was already a problem. From that moment, she hated me. Why? Because she couldn't control me. The fines started almost immediately. The first notice claimed my Porsche was parked improperly. I parked it in my own driveway. The second was for excessive grass length. I had cut it 2 days before. Then came trash bins left out too long, even though I pulled them in within the hour of pickup. I tried reasoning at the next HOA meeting. Sandra sat at the head of the table, flanked by her loyal board members. I dropped the stack of fines in front of her. "Sandra, I don't know what game you're playing, but I've followed every rule. These fines are bogus." She smirked, tapping her pen. "Rules are rules. If you can't handle them, maybe this community isn't a good fit for you." There it was, the threat, dressed up as advice. I kept my cool, but inside, I knew this wasn't going to stop. A week later, the harassment escalated. One morning, I walked out to head to work and froze. My tires were slashed. Every single one of them. A jagged cut through the sidewalls and a note tucked under the windshield wiper. "Next time we take it." My blood ran cold. This wasn't about trash cans or grass anymore. This was intimidation, criminal, calculated, and personal. I took photos, called the sheriff's office, and filed a report. But I knew the HOA had friends in low places, and Sandra would play innocent. Still, that note told me everything I needed to know. Sandra and her little empire weren't going to back off until they broke me or drove me out. What Sandra didn't know was that I'd been trained for people like her. I don't scare easy and I don't back down, but even I couldn't predict just how far she would go. I wasn't about to let the tire slashing slide. I documented everything, close-ups of the cuts, the note under the wiper, timestamps from my doorbell cam. I filed a police report with Deputy Morales and handed over the photos. He took the evidence seriously but warned, "These people aren't amateurs if they're escalating. Keep your cameras running." I did. At the next HOA meeting, I put the police report and pictures on the table. Sandra Holt sat there like she owned the room, lips curled in that same plastic smile. "Someone slashed your tires? That's awful," she said. "But you're making enemies by calling out neighbors. Or you're making victims by looking the other way." I shot back. The room went quiet. A few folks shifted, eyes down. I caught an older neighbor's half nod. Fear was a language everyone in that room understood. Sandra didn't deny anything. She weaponized ambiguity. I tightened my security. Motion lights, additional cameras angled at the driveway, cloud backups. The cameras weren't about paranoia. They were insurance. They would show the truth if Sandra's little empire tried to cover its tracks. This time, the move came in bright daylight. At 2:14 p.m., my front camera pinged my phone. Motion detected. I glanced at the feed and felt the old, primal spike. Headlights, a white SUV idling in my driveway. 3 men climbed out, wearing reflective vests with bold letters stenciled on the back. HOA security. One of them carried a heavy tow hook and toolbox. They didn't hesitate. They went straight to the Porsche like it was theirs to remove, unclipping the license plate, moving as if to attach a wheel clamp and hook the car to a flatbed. No knock, no questions, just practiced efficiency. I walked out on the porch. My hands were at my back, fingers curled around the grips of a service pistol I keep concealed there. A precaution, not a provocation. I wasn't showing it yet. I approached slow and deliberate, eyes on the men. They were halfway through affixing the towing apparatus. "Hey," I said, loud enough to cut through the afternoon. 2 heads snapped up. The lead man turned, gave a smirk that was supposed to be authority. "Official HOA enforcement. You're in violation. We're impounding the vehicle." "On what authority?" I asked. I kept my voice level. I kept walking. The sound of my boots on the porch step put a small, uncomfortable rhythm into the moment. One of the men brandished a laminated badge. Cheap lamination. Clip-on. Fake, even to someone glancing in the sun. I stopped 3 paces from them and reached behind my back. I didn't brandish. I revealed, slowly, the badge clipped inside my jacket and the US Marshal star at my waist. The smiles vanished. My free hand adjusted the jacket just enough so the grip of the pistol was visible in the hollow of my palm, tucked against my back. It was a quiet, unmistakable message. I was armed, trained, and not fooled. They laughed at first, dismissive, arrogant. "You're not a cop," the one with the tow hook scoffed. "This is HOA business." "Try me," I said. My voice was quiet but hard. The lead man hesitated. The second man tightened to the tow apparatus like a dog on a leash. Tension mounted the way a pulled wire hums before it snaps. Behind them, my driveway camera kept rolling. Wide angle, high def, time stamped. Every motion, every exchange, every cheap laminated badge was being recorded. The men could have backed off. They could have pretended nothing happened. Instead, they glanced at one another, fingers twitching on tools. The scene had moved past fines and notes. The theft was in progress, and whatever came next would be on camera. I told them once, calm and low, "Drop the tools, walk away, now." They laughed again, and that laugh was the last thing anyone would get to keep. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe, because the story is only going to get better. The lead man, crowbar glittering in the sun, took a step forward like he owned the driveway. I didn't hesitate. Training and instinct cut cleaner than anger. The thug swung the crowbar at my ribs. It was a wide, committed strike meant to disable. I moved into it, did what U.S. Marshals drill until it's muscle memory. A deflect, a turn, and a single controlled shot aimed to stop the attack without killing. He went down hard, groaning, not gasping. The shot hit the fleshy part of his thigh. Blood, but not fatal. It bought me time. The other two rushed in, weapons and bravado. That's when the rest of my training took over. No theatrics, efficient clinical force. I closed distance, used a wrist lock to torque one man's arm behind his back until it snapped with a clean, awful crack. He cried out and collapsed. The third lunged. I planted a shoulder, drove him back, and slammed his head into the pavement until he stopped fighting. It was over in seconds that felt like minutes. My driveway cam had everything. Timestamps, audio, high-def close-ups of the laminated badges and the HOA security vests. Neighbors poured into the street, phones up, eyes wide. The man I'd put down was screaming. The other two were curled and bleeding. Sheriff Morales' cruiser arrived 3 minutes later. Lights cutting the noon glare. Deputies leapfrogged to the scene, secured the suspects, and called medics. I presented my Marshal credentials without drama. They already had the footage streaming on an officer's tablet. The deputies cuffed the three men, seized crowbars, tow chains, fake badges, and the jackets. They treated the wounded. One required surgery on a severed femoral branch, but survived. The sheriff's investigators hustled up my driveway and watched the playback on my cloud backup. Every frame was a smoking gun. Within 48 hours, the paper trail opened. Bank transfers, Venmo payments, and text threads tied the hires to Sandra Holt, the HOA vice president. "Handle the Porsche, teach him to leave," read one message. Sandra's signature matched invoices for the men's cash payments. The district attorney filed a stack of charges: attempted grand theft auto, impersonating law enforcement, assault with a deadly weapon, and conspiracy to commit a felony. The three thugs were indicted. Sandra was arrested on solicitation and conspiracy counts. At trial, the video was merciless. Neighbors testified under oath about the fines, the slashed tires, and Sandra's private threats. The jury didn't deliberate long. Sandra was convicted of conspiracy, solicitation, and HOA fraud. She was sentenced to 30 months in state prison, ordered to pay $150,000 in restitution to me, repair, pain and suffering, legal fees, and a $50,000 civil penalty payable to the county for misuse of HOA authority. The three hired men pleaded guilty to impersonating an officer and attempted grand theft. Each drew prison time and restitution obligations. The HOA itself fractured. Board members resigned, civil suits multiplied, bylaws were rewritten, and a court-appointed receiver took control while members voted in new leadership. My civil suit for harassment and damages settled, $75,000 plus attorney's fees. Sandra's home went into lien and sale to satisfy judgments. I backed up the footage in 3 separate places and deleted nothing. I stayed in the house. The Porsche stayed in the driveway. They thought I was just another neighbor they could bully. They didn't know I was a U.S. Marshal, and they sure as hell learned you don't send fake cops to take what isn't yours.